Okay, so now that these rings are all cut out, what we are going to do is carefully place them on the cake in the middle of 4 circles, just like that. But be careful because they're still a little soft and they can run away from you. So I'll show you how to do a couple of them. We're just going to put a little bit of water on the back, not too much because you don't want it to slide and you don't want the water to leak out. And you carefully line it up and place it on the cake. Just like that. Let's do another one. Okay. And it can get a little sticky, so you have to kind of work quickly. There we go. And you just keep doing that around the cake, and you'll start to see this beautiful pattern emerge, and it just looks really pretty. And don't worry about the cornstarch or anything like that as it gets on the cake, because what we'll do is we'll go back over it with a paintbrush and just simply wipe it off. It'll be really, really easy. So I'm going to continue to put the circles on the cake, and you'll see what it looks like when they're all on it. Okay, so now we're going to be covering up, well, as you can see, we finished all of our rings, which looks really pretty on the cake. And we're going to be covering up the cake board. When I was crumb coating the cake with my chocolate ganache, sometimes it gets on the board, and that's okay. And one of the ways that you can deal with that is to just cover the board and make it look like the cake. So what we're going to do is take some of the dark purple fondant and roll it out into a large ribbon and put it on the side of the cake board so that it looks like it's part of the cake. Use a little bit of shortening, make it so it's, there we go, so it's not so sticky. And I'll show you a neat little trick that I use. This is just clear piping gel that sometimes you can use when you use food coloring. When you use blue food coloring, you can use it to look like water in certain cakes, things like that. And it's really sticky, and if you use a little bit of water to make it a little bit thinner, it makes a really nice adhesive for your fondant. So I'm going to try and not use a lot of cornstarch with this because I really want to get the intensity of the purple color. So I'm going to prepare my surface by rubbing a little bit of Crisco onto the surface. And we're going to take, let's see, I think I want to rub it this way. Okay. And I'm going to take my little rolling pin and roll it out, and hopefully this will come out. You know, lots of times with cakes, it really is trial and error. You know, what you think will work, you start to try it and you realize it's not working out the way you thought, so you just kind of change things, change direction, and just keep working at something until it's the way you want it. Now, you may not be able to get the ribbon all in one, one piece, and that's okay. You know, it's a soft enough, that's why I wanted to use the Crisco. It's soft enough that you'll be able to rub the seams together and it'll actually work out, towards your benefit. So what I'm going to do now is take a paintbrush and some water and dip it into my piping gel. Get just a little bit of liquefied and smooth some onto the cake board. And I use foam core for the cake board. I use 2 pieces of foam core for the cake board. I actually happen not to have a cake drum that I usually buy from my suppliers, so I didn't have that. So when you're in that kind of a situation, oops, foam core is a great way to go. It's a great versatile resource, and it really keeps its form. It's not too heavy. Okay, so that's a nice coating. And then what I'm going to do is make sure I cut a straight edge, and that will be going right next to the cake. And then I'll show you how to trim it. It's approximately the size, but it's okay if it hangs over because I'll show you how to trim it once we get it onto the cake. Okay, so you just kind of lay it up against the cake as best as you can. And it's a good thing that this ribbon is really soft, because you can kind of manipulate it as you go around and push it into place, which is really nice. And see here how I'm just pushing it into place. And if it's a little short, that's okay too. You know, that's why I kept it with the Crisco, because it's a lot softer, and if I made a mistake, it's very forgiving. When you're dealing with fondant that's a little bit on the drier side, it's kind of hard to stretch it and manipulate it the way you might need to. Just kind of smooth it on with your fingers. And here we go. See how already it looks so much nicer? There might be air bubbles in there, so just kind of take your fingers and just kind of smooth it on as best as you can. Here, I'll show you how we can match the two together. Take this uneven piece off. And just kind of put this in its place. There we go. And you'll see you don't even realize that there's a seam there because it's nice and soft. So we finished putting the fondant around the base. And again, you know, you just kind of keep running your fingers on it and get it as smooth as you possibly can. If you see any air bubbles, you can pop them with a little straight pin, or you know, maybe you can work the air bubble towards the front. And then what I do is I take my knife and I just kind of run it along the edge just to get the excess off. So now it looks nice and smooth, and you can already see how it changes the look of the cake. Now you're not looking at that cake board underneath with your ganache. You're looking at a pretty purple cake board. So for right now, what we're going to do is talk about how we're going to fill in the sides. And there's lots of different things that you can do. I thought one way, which would be nice, is to simply put a bead of circles, of balls around the bottom of the cake board. I thought that would be nice. And all you're simply doing with that is rolling out your fondant into a snake, making sure that it's as even as you can get. And then cutting pieces that are pretty uniform in size. About so big, so that when you roll it into a ball, it's about the size of, I don't know, small gumball, a cherry. And we're just going to put it with a little bit of water or gel, piping gel, whatever you want. And we're just going to put it onto the cake board. And we're going to go all the way around with the balls. Try and get them to be the same size as best as you can. It just looks nicer when it's uniform. That's why if you roll out a snake that is pretty even all the way across, then the chances are when you cut your pieces of fondant, they're going to be about the same size, so that when you roll them into a ball, it makes uniform balls all the way around. And you'll see how it starts to really look nice, and the balls kind of fall in line with the circles on the cake. And just keep doing that until you go all the way around the cake. And then I'll show you what to do to further enhance the design that we have on the side. Okay, so now we are up to the point where we are going to be adding these silver dragées. These are actually 6mm dragées. They're actually little candy pieces, and you can get them in all different sizes, as little as 1mm all the way up. So it really depends. Just go to your local distributor, cake distributor's place, or possibly AC Moore or Michael's in the general area could have them as well. But they're really nice, and they really give the cake a little bit of bling. So what I've done beforehand is I simply took the edge of my paintbrush and I just kind of, gently put holes in the areas where I wanted the dragées to go to create a little well so that it'll have something to hold on to. And then what I'm going to use as my glue is piping gel. Not too much, just a little bit, just enough to moisten the hole so that the dragée can stick with it. And what I'm going to do is wet my paintbrush and just a little bit, take a little bit of the gel, the piping gel, and just kind of moisten inside the little well that I made. And it'll dry, and it's certainly clear, so it'll dry clear. Then I use my tweezers, and I carefully just place the dragée into the hole. There we go. It's actually the best time to do this is right after you decorate the cake, because then the fondant is still a little bit more pliable, and you'll be able to put the dragées in without any problem. See, just a little bit of blend just to kind of wake the cake up. It looks beautiful.